Did you just throw
Did you
your
know that?
phone?
No, I did not throw the phone. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Beg Pardon, the podcast that dares you to say it again. As always, I'm Anthony, joined by Carlos.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. Beg Pardon, for those of you that haven't tuned in before, is a podcast kind of about everything and nothing at the same time. We talk about topics that you didn't know you wanted to hear about and give our opinions on them that you didn't ask for. So, welcome to the show. Today, we are, I almost said tonight because I see it's dark out outside your house. So, I guess tonight we are talking, tonight we're going to be taking everybody back to school. So, sharpen your
good segue.
pencils, everyone. Yeah, sharpen your pencils.
Sharpen your
notes.
pencils.
Yeah, that showed my age too. Like, go to the front of the class and like sharpen your pencils.
Yeah. Everyone uses
Um,
pens now.
Right. Okay. Take your pen caps off. We're going back to school today. We're going to talk about teachers, the unsung heroes of our lives. No, in all seriousness, teachers and kind of like our experience in the education system and what that looked like and the way that we were shaped by them. So, yeah. Carlos, did you go to public school?
100%. I went
The
to my sisters went to private school in high school in New York, but I always went to public school. This is how public school I went. When I was a kid, my elementary school was public school 203. It was straight up Hey Arnold style. Let's
Right.
go. But as I got into high school, yeah, it was still public school.
Got you. Insane. I went to public school my entire tenure, my entire career, education career. And going back in my mind, the first kind of teacher that I remember that made like a distinct impact on me, her name was Miss Newell. She was our music teacher. I feel like that's almost everyone's, but she was my music teacher in elementary school, and she was just, I don't know, I feel like music teachers are just different people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they're just different.
Different
they're
speed.
They're just very different, and she just made me care about people. Like, it makes me sound like I was like dead inside originally, but she did. Like, she was a very genuine soul. She was a very genuine, just a very genuine person. And back then too, like she was also the first like encounter I had with like a gay person, and I didn't understand what that meant in the town that I grew up in. I grew up in a very small conservative town, and I didn't understand really what that meant. Like, so much so that like I remember we were at a restaurant, we saw her there with like her wife or girlfriend or her romantic partner of some sort, and like it was like oh my god, like you don't, again, this shows my age, like you didn't see that. Like you didn't see that, so it made an impact on me, on somebody just being unapologetically, authentically themselves and teaching children to do the same. And obviously I have a love for, I love music so much, but to have a love and passion for music. But I think that was like my first like memory of like a teacher. There had been countless more that we'll talk about, but like my first memory of a teacher that kind of stayed with me, kind of like to this day. What was yours? Who was yours?
It's tough because I had quite a few. The Spanish teachers in my school, I mean, they taught Spanish. They were also of Hispanic descent, but they taught Spanish.
Yeah.
Senora Cool and Senora Freeman were always like somebody, like I could run to them with anything. And it was almost like I ran to a family member. No matter what I said or what I did, they were like, I mean, you were just a boy. Like, they helped me with everything. And they always were there. Like, no matter what it was I needed help with, no matter what it was I needed feedback from, or like I needed somebody to tell me the truth, but also, you know, keep it between us, they were always there. But we also had an assistant principal who I'm still pretty close to this day. Ms. McElwain in high school. Miss McElwain was the type of like no nonsense fun. She was fun, but she was also no nonsense, like I'm not tolerating it type of person. And she always told me like don't be stupid. That was her way of saying like don't get into trouble, don't turn left when you should have turned right type of thing. And somehow some way when I always was going to do something that was either stupid or could have been detrimental to my academic career, somehow Miss McElwain was always there. Like I turned around and she was there. She's like, "Where are you supposed to be? Go to class," or something like that. Always. I don't know how she knew. And I genuinely think if I didn't have Miss McElwain as assistant principal, I probably would not have done as well as I did in high school. Probably, and I probably wouldn't be as well adjusted to like life as I am right now.
Wow. Yeah, you don't realize, especially at the time, you don't realize the impact that these people like have on you. I remember I was in middle school and I can't even remember his name, but he was like an interim choir director, and I remember one day he basically had told me like I was like talentless and I wasn't going and I wasn't going to really like amount to anything, and if I wanted to like pursue that. And I spent like in high school I spent then years like having a high school version of success in performance theater, and I just remember that stuck with me in such a way to be like I want to prove this person. Again, I grew up in a small area, so I knew that you're gonna see, like I always thought in my head in high school whenever we would do performances, do shows, like I want you to be in this auditorium right now. And I don't know if he was ever watching, but in that negative sense, it stuck with me to be like, let's prove this person wrong. And I think that you do like every story, every life story, every fake story, fantasy story, like you need a villain in your life. And that was kind of like, that was one of my villains in my life where I was just like, wow, this guy, like it stung. I was like, this really like, I mean, I probably was talentless at the time, but I was like, it still really, it was hard to hear,
Yeah.
It was just, and it kind of stuck with you, but you choose then what you do with that after you compartmentalize it, and like, am I going to use this to like move forward? Am I going to,
Yeah. Oh my God.
never do it again? Yeah, that's what it was like. And then I go to high school and I had Mrs. Domer, who was our choir director, and I originally only took choir because I had to. It was either choir or art, and I am artistically inept. Like it is very bad. Like from it was like your traditional like drawing class. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't. I couldn't. It wasn't a I don't know, a modern art class of any type. It was just like
In high school.
Traditionally, yeah. I was just like, well, I don't want to confuse people. I don't want them to think like it wasn't like. I'm sure I could. I'm sure that if I'm artistic in other ways. I'm not artistic with a pencil. That's what that was. That's what that class was. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to take choir. So that in the back of my mind now I have like you're a horrible thing. So I was like, oh God. So I remember taking choir, and at the time, and of course I played football in high school, so I was like, I'm too cool for school. Like I don't need to, like choirs for dweebs. I think we were still saying that then.
I was gonna say.
I was like, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, but like, yeah, I'm just taking choir, And I broke my spine in high school playing football.
In choir?
Yeah. Fell off the risers and just snapped it like a twig. I broke my spine in football, and that was it. That was the end of my short-lived football career, and I was done. And I was such a burden at home, in the sense that I was like, I was a jerk. Like I was blaming the world for everything because I enjoyed football, and I was blaming the world for everything. And my mom like forced me to audition for the musical in school just to get out of the house.
Mm.
just to like get out. And I auditioned for it, and like I got like night number 7 or something ridiculous. And Mrs. Domer ended up like working with me like throughout my entire like high school career on just on expressing myself that way instead of like on the field. I was a very angry and resentful young adult and young older teenager, and the way that I would express myself through physical sports, she taught me to channel that through the arts, and that has like forever changed my life to this day. Like to be able to see like, oh wow, I can channel this in an artistic and creative way and feel a release in a positive and healthy way. She probably saved my life, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out.
Do you still talk to her?
Listening, right? No, I haven't talked to her in a long time.
Probably should like pen a letter or something to her.
Right, pen a letter. I still think she's teaching.
Really?
Teaching. Yeah.
I said really.
I'm
like
not
we're
that old.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, all right.
I said it like we were both so much older than
like she's still alive. Like that's
like,
what
oh
you
my
mean.
gosh. Good for her.
You know, it's weird. In 9th grade, I had a teacher that my dad had. Yeah.
That's always
for those
weird.
of you guys that don't know, my dad. I was adopted whenever I was younger, and I mean that's not really an excuse or a reason, but I was adopted whenever I was younger by my parents. But my parents were older than most traditional parents whenever they have their kids because they didn't have traditional children. They adopted their children, so
right.
like that was the point of me saying that I was adopted. But I was adopted, and they were older than what your traditional like 20-somethings were to have kids. So it was very shocking to be like, yeah, she's still alive. I was like her last year of teaching. But yeah,
because of your class?
No, we had the same teacher. But yeah, she back to Mrs. Domer. Like she really did like change my outlook. And then again, those are the teachers like in the arts that are they're progressive. They're just with the time, I guess. They're just very I don't know. They're like for the people, like for the kids. You know what I mean? Like they're just they're who our generation is now, kind of.
Yeah. They
Very
play a big
much so.
role in it.
Yeah. Of shaping how we looked at things.
I took art classes because I was like, I'm not going to flex the golden pipes in choir. So I took art classes, and I would like to say...
You're a good artist, though, so I feel like that was like a...
Thank you.
I feel like that was in your wheelhouse to do.
You would think.
Oh, was it not?
It was not. I remember I
shoot.
drew like super elaborate characters, and my art teacher was like, I mean, that's cool, but that wasn't the assignment. Like, I did not have the... I was like, I'm never going to do this again. It wasn't until I got older that I started drawing again. Because my art teacher, I was like, this is boring. Like, you're not letting me do what I want to do in terms of like expression and stuff. Like, I'm not painting a blue horse. Get out of here. So then I started like loading up my schedule with like gym and strength and conditioning, which was really gym 2, but we called it strength and conditioning. So I had double dose of gym. Yeah. So, I started loading up my schedule with that, but even in those classes, I had other really good teachers. I'm not going to lie and say like those were the only 3 people I had. I had a teacher, Mr. Knopfsinger. He taught street law, which was like the craziest class I ever took.
What is that?
Yeah, street law was literally just like what's a misdemeanor, what's a felony, all this stuff. I don't know why it was offered.
I thought it was like street justice, like type of like this is how
how
we patrol the streets.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I signed up, and I quickly learned that's not what it was. So mistakes were made. But I also had a history teacher named Mr. Mayo, and he was real old school. I mean, he was straight up. He was going to tell you how he wanted to tell you. It didn't matter. I mean, I saw him, like, scream at kids. He got into cursing matches with kids, and nobody cared. Everyone was like, that's him. You asked for it. But, I mean, that whole time, the principal, Mr. Gwynn, was really cool. He's a real cool dude. But as much as I got along with him, it was always Ms. McElwain. That at the end of the day, she was somehow, all 4 years, somehow they're in the hallway, or she just knew, like, I need to talk to you. I didn't say anything to her, nothing. She just knew. She was like my Mr. Feeney, basically. She was
Gotcha.
there all the time. And, as special as a relationship I had with, or have still with Senora Cool, I mean, she's like family, so is Senora Freeman. Miss McElwain was the one that I remember distinctly, like, she's going to be really disappointed if I do X,
Mm-hmm.
or I can't wait to tell Miss McElwain A, because she genuinely cared, and she genuinely read through the lines. It wasn't so much like she didn't know, you know, these things are going on in the school and did nothing to fix it. Like, Miss McElwain knew, and she was working on something to fix it. You just didn't see it. It was behind the scenes. Um, and her daughter went to. She was in the same grade as me. Her daughter was really cool people too. I'm still good friends with her too. But Miss McElwain never. That was the other thing I respected about her. She never let that show. Like, it wasn't like I'm gonna favor my daughter here or anything like that. Like, it was always. I don't even remember ever hearing her daughter call Miss McElwain by her name, like call her mom or anything. That's not her name, but
That'd be right, but that'd be really weird if she like raised her hand and she's like, "Hey, mom."
well, like, I never even in the hallway be like, "Hey, mom" or anything. It was always like, "Hey, Miss McElwain," until after the bell rang, and then it was mom. So I always thought that was pretty cool. Like, she never blurred the lines or anything. But yeah, in terms of people who really helped you get through school, Miss McElwain was a big one. I mean, so much so that when we started Latino Club for all, because we didn't have that many Spanish kids in the school. So all of us came there as like a safe haven to learn about, like, our own cultures, because we all came from different, like, heritage-wise, different countries. So we all, like, learned about that with Senora Cool, and Senora Freeman was also involved in that too. So that's kind of where I gelled. But Miss McElwain was kind of like the champion in the back that allowed us to do these, like, different potlucks and different guest speakers and all these things, because Ms. McElwain helped us to kind of get that ball rolling. So without her, we wouldn't have had that, and we wouldn't have been able to express ourselves in that way. And I think that, I don't know if there's enough thank you that I can say or do for her, for the amount that she did for me. And I only had her for 4 years. Like, if I genuinely would have had her like a Mr. Feeney, I can't imagine what my life would have been like.
Right.
But yeah, she's a rock star.
Yeah. I and two, I don't know that teachers understand the impact that they. Uh, I mean, I know that they know they have an impact on people. I just don't know if they know to that extent, to where
Yeah.
we're X age, to where we're older than 25 years old, and we're and
Yeah.
and they still stick with us. They still
Yeah.
stick with us. Things that we learned, like the good and the bad, the negative stories too. I mean, like, you have we and everything was such a I don't know. It was nice whenever something was different, at least for me, because again, I'm from such a small town that literally my our vice principal, our vice principal was also, and I don't know if times overlapped or it was just directly after, the mayor of the city that the high school was in. Yeah,
That's a small town.
yeah. Going from we had drive your tractor to school day, no joke. No
I would
joke.
have cried if that was my school.
And last I checked, if we had drive your tractor to school day, I'm from Ohio. We have the mayor being the vice principal of the school. I didn't fit in too well. Like, that's literally how it was. Like, I did not. I didn't fit in too well. So whenever I had the opportunity to develop, like, positive relationship, those are the ones that, like, stick with you, where you're like, wow. To be completely honest, my whole, with the exception of like 2 years in elementary school, my entire public school education was a nightmare that I could not wait to be over. I hated every minute of high school. I hated every minute of junior high school, and I hated every minute of elementary school, with the exception of the 5th and 6th grade. So it was
Jeez.
rough. Yes, it was rough. I was so excited to get out of school, It wasn't for me. I wish that I could. I wish that I could have been like. Jason Bateman didn't graduate high school. I wish I could have been like doing what
Jason Bateman. Like Jason Bateman.
Yeah, do what Jason Bateman was doing and ruin the world on the screen instead of being in school like hating my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I loved elementary school. I hated it when we moved. My 4th grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Dick, and I felt really bad because I know like I was an angry little kid in her class because we just moved from New York. And she was the sweetest person. And I saw her later on when I was in high school, and she was like, you were a good kid. And I was like, you're being nice. But I had Miss McQuillan in 5th grade, and I loved that class. Like, that made me get good at math, was Miss McQuillan's class. Like, that carried me all the way through. I think when I hit high school and got into geometry, and I was like, this noise. Like, I hate geometry. But
you censored yourself on our own show.
I did censor myself.
Yeah, you didn't have to do that.
That's for all the kids out there.
Right. Yeah, our 11-year-old audience. Weird.
But yeah, Miss McQuillan, like, she was a younger teacher, I remember. And I remember thinking, like, wow, I'm so used to teachers being older. But Mrs. Quillen, I want to say she was like late 20s, early 30s. Maybe even mid 20s.
Most of my teachers were in their late 20s, early 30s.
Miss McQuillan was like one of the few that I had that was that young, and I remember being like, "Wow." But then when I got to high school, then when I got to high school, I was like, I don't like this at all. Not because of the teachers or anything. It's just there was behind the scenes stuff going on with other faculty members that I was like, no one's calling you out on this, but you don't agree with my mentality, let's say, to put it politely. But then when I got into college, Kent State, I had more teachers that I really like jived with. I had a teacher, I can't pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but her name is Mandy. And Mandy was one of the most like energetic and like really got me energized about hospitality and was like, this is what it is. Like, she told us the truth about it. She wasn't like, you're going to go out there and you're all going to be GMs. Right. Like, she was like, it's rough.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, she was like, country clubs are rough. Like, I remember a lot of nights where I wanted to cry. Like, she was brutally honest. Yeah. And then I talked about the story before, but Dr. Israeli was another teacher who he saw something was off. And this was around the time that I was managing the hotel. And Dr. Israeli saw, like, something's off with him. And I never had a class with him before. And he pulled me aside, and he was like, are you okay? And I lied, and I was like, yeah, of course I'm fine. He's like, no, like, are you okay? And I almost like collapsed into this man's arms.
Isn't that where you're like your eyes are like watering and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, 100%. And
like, no, tell me the truth. And you're like,
exactly. And I was like, this man sees into my soul.
Right.
And he was like, look, you didn't turn in this paper. I'm gonna let you turn it in for X amount of credit, but just take care of yourself. Like, I want to make sure you're okay first. And I remember I came home and I told my wife, and I was like, this man just literally saved my life. 100%. And I learned so much from that class. And whatever feelings I have about going to college versus not going to college and all that things, I'm really fortunate that I went to Kent State and met the faculty that I did, and got from them what I did. I'm not saying that the degree I got was the most important thing in my life, because hospitality is such a broad thing that degrees are great, but so is on-hand experience. Like, that's a whole another episode we can do. Right. But I'm really fortunate that I was able to interact with the faculty, and I had other teachers like Ned Welk and stuff. I don't want to like forget a teacher and they like, oh my gosh, you hurt my feelings. But it was such a great faculty to be around that alone I would sell people on Kent State. That was probably my favorite time in school ever, was Kent State, just because of the faculty alone.
Nice. And I think once you get to like an older level, like a collegiate level too, you get like a different, just more life experience. Like, you can connect better with people. Because you're all adults now.
Kind
of. Quote unquote. Yeah. Quote unquote, like adults. Depends on who you ask. But we'd love to hear from you guys. Like, who were your favorite teachers? Did you like school? Did you hate school? What kind of impact did people have on you? And to the teachers out there too, thank you. I don't think that it gets said enough, the selfless job that y'all do, like literally every single day. But big shout out to all the teachers that listen to our show, all the teachers that are in the classrooms every single day educating our youth. And for the teachers, the bad teachers, like, you know who you are, realize the impact that you have. For real, like, realize the impact that you have on people's life and the opportunity that you have to shape like an entire generation of people. Carlos and I, our generation of people, I think that, again, I'm biased because I'm in the generation, but I think that we belong to just a very self-aware, articulate, passionate, driven group of people, and I think that is large and in part due to the people that we had shaping our lives for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for our entire educational life, like our entire childhood basically. Like it's just been, there to thank for the change that we're seeing in the world. So big shout out to teachers, and thanks for tuning in today.
And just like that, another episode of Beg Pardon is done for the night, as he pointed out. Yeah. As always, he is Anthony. I am Carlos. And again, from both of us, thank you so much. And in the words of Mrs. McElwain, don't be stupid. Until next time.